Welcome to Martechify, a community of marketing professionals interested in martech, digital marketing, and AI. I'm your host today, Ekaterina Konovalova, and I would love to welcome to our conversation Stephanie Wellek. She's the platform operations of enterprise marketing at Adobe. Stephanie, I would love to hear more about your role at Adobe and also if you can share more with us about your career journey, because it sounds like you started first in a field of science and eventually transitioned to marketing. That would be fascinating.
Yeah, every single person in this field, the journey is always wild. None of us, or at least anyone who's been in it for, 10 years plus, none of us ever started in it or woke up one day and said, oh, I want to do that. Let me start with what I do currently. So at Adobe, I'm on the platform operations team. Our remit is to really support the execution ideas from our marketing strategy. So there's a lot of things you can do in Marketo, in CDP, in our AEP product, but trying to weave those together to really create the execution that the marketing team is really trying to achieve, that's where we come in. So we have a separate team that does the day-to-day execution, and then our team gets pulled in to really kind of be like an assist to that. Hey, we can't figure out how to do this in email. Can you help us figure out the best way to achieve it? Hey, we need some custom help with our audiences from CDP. Can you help us get there? We're troubleshooting. We can't see our data from form fill to CRM and reporting. Can you help us figure out where the data failed in the data flow? So that's really the team that I'm on. And my specific area of expertise is to assist the live events that the enterprise marketing team is doing. So right now, you might see a lot of events around Adobe AI Forum. All of those events are created under the execution of my support and the operation model that I support. I also help the team really maximize how to use our Marketo internally and to really understand what's the best way of ingesting data and leveraging that data and then keeping Marketo as optimized as possible. And then probably one of the more fun parts that I really enjoy is the work that I get to do inside of our new tools. And so right now I've been neck deep in our Adobe Journey Optimizer B2B product, AJO B2B, and our new email editor in Marketo. And the new email editor spans across AJO B2B and Marketo. So I really have been able to sink my teeth in, get that stood up in both platforms, and we've been using it successfully lately. So it's been great. But I didn't really get here from graduating college with a degree in marketing operations that didn't exist, right? Not to date myself too much, but when I was in school, Salesforce it was becoming pretty powerful. A lot of companies were adopting it. And I don't think Eloqua and Marketo were quite ready yet at that point. So I was studying environmental engineering while those platforms were kind of becoming ideas and becoming adopted. And what ended up happening was with my engineering degree, I went into marketing within environmental science. And so I started actually bailing water out of monitoring wells at gas stations. So anytime you go to a gas station, you look at the little wells that, you unscrew and you take them off and people are bailing water. That was me in a hard hat with steel-toed boots as my first job. So you can imagine I didn't really stick with that much longer as soon as I realized there wasn't really a lot of mobility for myself there. And I came across all of this marketing tech, Eloqua, Marketo, like there was, I think even Automatic was coming out with WordPress. And so all of these things were becoming so much easier to do. And it was an immediate, I got to get in there or I feel like I might be left behind, not have a job. So I left everything. I just said, I'm out of here. I went to the Bay Area. I wiggled my way into some startups, taught myself Marketo, which was horrific. I don't even want to look at what my first Marketo looks like. It was such a mess. But that eventually led me to really the desire to really lean into that product. And I eventually worked at Marketo. And that's really where the wheels started turning quickly. And I picked up a lot of strategy there. I was on the professional services team. So my role was to be a consultant for all of the deals that sales was closing and to a lot of times try to make the impossible happen. I had to do things with the tool that you don't necessarily recommend out of the box, but we had to figure out how to make it useful for the new clients. So yeah, that's sort of my journey.
I love it. What a great story. And it's so inspirational how at first you used Marketo as a user and now you get to work at the company. How do you make an impact at such big corporation and move a needle?
Yeah, I think that's definitely not something that's going to happen right away. When you come into an enterprise org, and my background has been mainly within startups and a little bit of mid-market, I find that there's one of two buckets you jump right into, and then you start the cycle. One of them is, I am freaked out, I'm so scared, imposter syndrome. I don't think I should be here. All these people are smarter than me. And then there's this other bucket that I'm so excited. I get to see how everything is made. I get to see how customers are using marketing tools. I get to see how teams work internally when you have such a robust team supporting marketing systems. And so it's like this cycle where you come in at either one, either you're scared or you're excited, but then it starts the momentum of a cycle of, I came in scared. I gave myself 6 months to kind of listen and understand how does the team work, and gradually would get excited about jumping into things, and then quickly learned what I didn't know, got scared again, learned, would get excited again. So it's a cycle constantly happening. I would say right now I'm again in the I'm scared phase. Because I'm learning so many new things. I'm helping the team adopt new tools, but also trying to understand where's the best case for AI and what are other marketers doing. It's a totally different beast, enterprise company. But I think, once I hit that 1 year mark and could really understand our systems, could troubleshoot on my own, could really support the team directly, that's when kind of the light bulb went off and like the engine really started ramping up. So, really being able to make an impact isn't going to come early. I'm a super impatient person, which is why startups are great, because I think you get like 2 weeks to ramp up, and then it's like, here you go, you get everything, good luck. So you really have to spend some time when it comes to enterprise, learning all of the nuances of the systems, why they're connected the way they are. I would say that the ability to really make an impact has been one of the more exciting things for me. I like to say that I'm really like a boots on the ground marketing operations person. I like to stay connected to the community. Marketing operations or marketingops.com is a great community. I'm very active there. I'm in their Slack. If anyone finds me there, come say hello. But being the boots on the ground within the marketing tech community, I am listening to what the pain points are, what solutions have not been solved. And then I might actually take that with me internally and say, we want some enhancements for our products, but let's also make sure this enhancement solves not just our internal use case, but all the other ways that marketers will use this in their own company. So it's a unique seat, and I've never been at that table before. How to make an impact there? First was, who are the right people to talk to? You won't learn that right away. You'll learn that over time. Once you identify who they are, you can't just bombard them with, I have so many ideas. You have to really understand what's the best way to enter that conversation, knowing all the things that they have on their plate. So I've only started to really connect with product in some areas of our tools to really understand what's the best approach. How can I help you get to your goals of enhancing the product, increasing your user base, increasing the engagements that you see? I have a lot of ideas that can suit our internal use, but I think we could take these ideas and also make sure that they are relevant for, our customers. It's been a journey, and I would say, if you have aspirations of doing that at an enterprise level, always listen first. Listening has been the key. And then you really have to understand what that engagement looks like before you really kind of jump in.
I love it. Can you provide an example of maybe a feature or some of the implementation you were able to introduce by listening to some of these communities and then implementing it with your team?
I would say like I'm really in the thick of it right now. Enhancements, maybe some features that I think need a little bit more work. I have those discussions right now, so the outputs haven't occurred yet. However, I did see an example of Adobe really finding a pain point right away with AI and really jumping in to figure out a solution. And that was a product called LLM Optimizer. If you haven't looked at it, I strongly suggest taking a peek at what that tool is like. Basically, we've moved from a search engine optimization standpoint from marketing, and we're now getting closer to a full 100% generative engine optimization strategy. And that doesn't mean just simply making sure your brand shows up in the AI overview of Google. This means being present as a brand in the chat responses that you get from an LLM. So how do you even do that? Well, there wasn't really any tools to show marketers where am I dropping the ball and not being picked up by LLMs in their responses. And so this tool immediately solves that pain point. And what it allows marketers to do is to say, here are all my web pages. I want you to analyze them for areas for improvement, so that my brand can be picked up in ChatGPT when a person is asking for, I need a marketing technology solution for buying group journeys. Well, we would love our AJO B2B product to be that answer, right? And we want that to be the very first answer. So LLM Optimizer is this tool that just came out of the woodwork internally, and it was introduced. And it felt like it was introduced at the same time that I was watching everyone's graphs plummeting for website traffic, because people were now finding their answers in chat without having to go to the website. So that can kind of give you an idea of the impact that what happens to marketing overall, especially with AI these days, can be immediately absorbed internally and pushed through product engineering to really figure out what are the pain points and let's solve them and let's get this out to market. So it was a really fast response.
That is a great example. And yes, you're absolutely right. Search changed dramatically last year, 2025, and heading into 2026. And also the state of the economy changed. So I wanted to ask you a question about what it takes to land a job in marketing operations in 2026 and beyond.
Well, let me tell you a little story. January of 2024, I had my first layoff. And, I actually saw it coming. I knew that it was going to be a large one. So I had been preparing, I would say January 2024 layoff. So I was probably starting to interview around September, October of 2023. Man, it was tough. I have never had such a difficult time landing an interview. So as soon as the layoff happened, I felt very vulnerable. Like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I know a lot of people. I feel pretty connected on LinkedIn, but how do I use that? And I decided to write a post on LinkedIn, allowing my vulnerability to be part of the post. It went mini viral, and I was able to land crazy amount of interviews that way. I'm not saying that posting on LinkedIn is going to be the make or break way of getting a job, but the eyes that would see that were key. And so, like a broken record, we're all telling everyone out there, lean into the network. Network yourself through getting a job. And that's exactly what I've been doing. So layoff January 2024, post on LinkedIn, got myself going, right? Got the engine going, got a lot of inquiries. Not a lot of them were what I was looking for or even the right fit, but I loved the conversations. I also got to see what are people hiring for these days. I mean, AI, let's see, ChatGPT at that time was a year old, I think. It came out in 2022, right? And by 2023, it was a year. January 20 was like a year and like 4 months. So it was still new and people were still trying to figure out what that was. So I didn't have any experience there. but yet they were still asking me questions. So, I tried to do as much research as I could. I really think that those two pieces are what people are going to need these days. People submit, they'll have a post that says, I give up. I've submitted 1,000 resumes and I haven't gotten an interview. No one's going to get an interview by submitting their resume. No one. You submit your resume, you find who's looking at those resumes, or you ping your network to say, here's the company I'm trying to get into. Does anyone have any contacts? Then you give them your top 3 bullets of this is why I'm perfect for this job, right? You got to kind of make yourself, not everyone's doing that. So you got to make yourself stand out. And that's a great way to do it. And that's what I did and worked great. I think also is, now that we're 2025, so GBT is 3 years old now, AI sort of starting to be piloted in companies. Play around with building an agent. I know, everyone's going to say, how? I don't know the first thing. There are so many resources out there to teach you. And Google has a whole library of free courses to help you understand how to use Gemini and how to use gems and creating agents. I like using Mind Studio. I think it's a really cool platform to really understand how agent is built in the background with prompting. I mean, the prompts are 200 lines, and it really shows you the complexity. Just play around with it will bring so much great content to your interviews. It doesn't even have to work really well. I mean, the fact that you go in, even if you say, I tried an agent, I haven't really gotten it to work much, but here's what I've learned. That is all it takes, right? So I mean, even better if it works, to be honest.
Yes.
But,
yes.
You figure out the use case and you say, this is what I've built and this is how I'm understanding how important prompting is, how important it is to really be precise in what you're using AI for, what it's not good for. And so I think those two things you will stand out so much if you have those two pillars, networking, playing around with AI, and you'll be able to pull out a lot from that.
Yeah.
As you're looking for a job.
Yes. And I wonder if you encountered any companies, especially in California, who are modeling after some of the European companies offering of a probation period. So I see in the United States, it's not as common, where it's very hard to get a job, but then it's expected that the person is hired, and so they either a good fit or not a good fit. That's why it's so hard to get through all these rounds of interviews and get a job. While in Europe, it's more common to land a job with a probation period of 3 or 6 months to see how well the person is aligned with the team, with the culture. And then after their performance, they either move to a permanent role or they say goodbye. So have you seen anything like that in your experience?
I mean, at Adobe, we have an internship program.
Yeah. In addition to internships, which is an entry level.
Yeah. I would say don't shy away from a contract, which is sort of what you might be describing.
Mm-hmm.
But those really are aligned with current economic fluctuations. So, I personally was a consultant. After I left Marketo, I consulted for about 5 to 6 years. It just happened to be during the boom of consulting. It was just good timing. It wasn't that I did something better than other people. But during that boom, I did see people so desperate for support that they couldn't get an FTE role approved. And therefore, to get the same role supported, they immediately went to contract. So I never shy away from the idea of starting as a contractor first and then rolling into FTE. Also, fun fact, before I was here at Adobe Platform Operations team, I was a contractor on the digital media side of the business in 2019. That was a huge part in why I got this role. So twofold was I've had experience inside the org as a contractor before, so I know my way around. And 2, I knew the people on the team, right? So that networking aspect. A lot of people don't realize to maybe look in that direction. And it's really a great way to get yourself not just in for the networking piece, because you get to meet all the teams and everyone. And you really get to have that experience under your belt as well. I can't tell you one of the biggest surprises when I was interviewing was the fact that my consulting was exactly what a company was looking for. I thought it would be the opposite. Like, oh, I'm a consultant. I I can't find a place where I really want to be FTE, so I just stay over here on the sidelines. Like, is that going to really be a seems like a deal breaker to me? But it was the opposite. They love the experience. You get to be exposed to a lot of companies. You get to see different strategies, different marketing plays. How is the tech designed within those marketing plays? What are the differences between different sizes of companies, different targets? Are they PGL? Are they overall marketing strategy based? So it turned out to be a win-win. So I think to your point, it's a great avenue for people to look at. Don't be afraid to take a contract that's 3 months if you're still looking for work. You never know what that could turn into, and it's really good for your resume.
Yes, good advice. So let's go back to Marketo and email in general. It sounds like email channel making a comeback. Let's talk about it.
That's my feeling. I don't see a lot of people saying this, but I really think that email is being set up to be in its prime very soon. We've been looking at retargeting ads. You put a sweater in your cart, you walk away, they follow you everywhere, they send you emails. Eventually, maybe you get that coupon and you go in and buy, right? But we haven't really done that with email. We haven't gotten that targeted and that personalized from a B2B perspective. I think the ability to do that is prime. It is ripe, and it is all about good data. And that's why nobody's able to really harness it yet. We've seen a bunch of people attempt AI, a bunch of marketing ops gurus and experts, many that I follow. I would highly recommend Justin Norris from 360 Learning, Joe Wrights from Vercel, Chris Kurtz from Jasper, Paul Reitzer from Marketing AI Institute. All these people are trying AI, and they are telling you, here's what's working, here's what's not, and here's where, especially Marketing AI Institute, where is marketing going with AI? Email is so ripe for the picking. My very first use case in AI for email that I love, and only a couple people are doing this, is to really leverage like your heat map. A lot of times for a long time, we've been using a heat map to understand what's the best day of the week and time of day to hit people in their inbox. And, a marketer would always guess like, oh, right before they go to lunch, let's do 11:30 a.m. Because after they come out of their meeting, they'll check their email and then they'll go to lunch. That's great. Or like maybe when they come back from lunch, let's hit them. Or let's get them in the 3:30 p.m. with our blog content, right? Or our webinar registration. But it's always really been a guessing game. Well, now we have this, what do we call it? AI as an MBA intern who can process not even terabytes, it's like petabytes of data. So the best use case I've seen right now for email and AI is leveraging the historical data of individual records when they open, when they click, when they visit your website, and use that to send emails on the particular day of the week and time of day for every individual contact. Can you imagine getting the email in your inbox right around the time that you pick up your phone and you're taking a break? That you can do that today. All the data is there. The data is pretty accurate, right? It's not human created. It's created by the system, so you can rely on it. You can feed that into AI and say, I want you to deliver these emails for every single record at the day and time of their engagement. So that's an easy win right now. We've never been able to do that for email at scale, and you can do that now. The second piece I think that's really exciting is the personalization that we're about to enter.
Mhm.
ABM, if I hear that one more time, it's going to drive me mad. Like, let's move on. We tried it. It didn't work. Let's find something else. What we tried to do during ABM is to say, oh, you're an industry and you have these personas, and we're going to try to blend that and really figure out how to target accounts with personalization. It wasn't personalized enough. And so what we're going to be able to do now is, particularly in Marketo, all of my Marketo gurus know that you have a segmentation, you leverage a segmentation for dynamic content, and then you get personalized emails. I think that what we're about to see is something that's even more detailed and more structured. So being able to really create those audiences in a similar way that you would create a smart list for your email sends is going to make this even more powerful. In addition to that, We have, with the use of CDPs and the ability to stream data versus batch in data, and deciding what areas of data are we going to stream, like maybe visits to a website. We want to know that right away. Or a form fill. Things of behaviors and actions that are really showing us some intent. Let's stream those in. And then we're going to have batches of other data to not overwhelm the system. Leveraging that streaming data allows you to make changes and pivots quickly. So instead of saying, I'm going to change a person's stream in a nurture program based on last week's attendee list or something like that, now we're able to say, I'm going to change the stream based on the behaviors that I saw an hour ago, 30 minutes ago, right? And then you're not even waiting for that batch send. You can say, you know what, the person's on the website. They were just looking at RTCDP. I'm going to take that engagement data and I'm going to send that into my journey to say, this person is ready to receive the email. They were just on the website. And I know exactly what content I want to send them. And now your content is taking them to conversational agent, right? And to a point that you and I were talking about a while ago, in the visiting of the website being dynamic on a one-to-one basis. And it's showing the entire journey of everything you might be interested in based on what you've seen on our website. All of those things coming together, that's never been done before with email. And so I'm bullish on email. It is our cheapest channel in marketing. It is prime for a glow up, and I think it's going to have its glow up 2026 and beyond.
Yes, that sounds very impressive. And do you think mostly big enterprise clients are positioned for it because of the big budgets, or smaller clients because of them being more nimble? How do you envision the rollout of this functionality and features? Because on one hand, with bigger accounts, they have so many more regulations and limitations, and then smaller accounts may not have such a big system in place or the budgets. So how do you envision it playing out in the future?
You know, a lot of people automatically assume that enterprise is the first to strike. They have the money, they have the people, but we also have the most data. And I promise you, our data is not 100% clean. No one's is. So it's actually the opposite. And Marketing AI Institute has a ton of great research on this. There's a separation between company size and where they are in their AI adoption. And what they found is there's three buckets. There's, I'm thinking about it, like a proof of concept. We're piloting it, and we have actually launched it live. The enterprise is, we're thinking about it and we're piloting it. The SMB mid-market is, we're piloting it and it's already live. So what we kind of pull out from that is, you know, somewhat smaller data sets, because enterprise is, you know, petabytes now. It's no longer terabytes. And I think when you're working with a little bit smaller of a data set, you can possibly rely a little bit more on certain areas of that data because you have more control. I think, you know, these types of enhancements, I'm going to be watching the startups and those crafty first customers to really adopt those. I think is going to be at some of those smaller SMB early mid-market companies.
Yes, I think you're right. And then can we play out a couple scenarios? So it sounds like B2C are more progressive, but then B2B are catching up. And I wonder if you can even imagine a scenario with a brand, with an example, and walk us through what's possible and how it is going to unfold.
So let's say, well, you know, we can use that email example that I kind of went into. The email is sent at the day of the person's choosing and the time of day in which they engage most. The content in the email is based on what they've engaged with lately. What events have they attended? What pages on the website have they consumed? How long have they consumed those pages? And compare what products are they really interested in. The content is really delivering based on that. Then you have assets that are catching their eye, subject lines that have already been tested in work, personalization at 1-to-1, not at hundreds to hundreds. And in that email, the open rates improve, right? You get to see people are actually engaging and clicking and visiting the website. When they visit that website, what is that journey? That is no longer a chatbot, it's a conversation. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the website. We know you're interested in these things. What problems are you trying to solve? Oh, well, I'm trying to figure out how to really increase my email channel, which is having to glow up, to increase conversions and really affect my pipeline. Great. Let us show you what we can do and what our customers have done with our tools, right? And so it's like what you would ask salespeople on a demo almost, but being able to do it yourself and service yourself on the website. So it's a complete overhaul of the entire flow from start to finish. I mean, I could go on about the marketing to sales handoff, but that's a totally different topic for another day. But just that entry component, I think we're going to see a lot of people start to really hone that in. And what you'll find is as we as a society get very comfortable with chatting with LLMs, I would say all of us are used to it now. Chatting with a conversational agent on a website will come naturally. You almost will expect it at some point, right? And so some people might even start going to websites and saying, I don't want to look around. Here's what I need. Create a page to answer all these questions for me using your tools. Or FedEx, I would go to your website and say, where's my package? Here's my tracking number. I want to know why it was delayed. I want to know when realistically it can be delivered. Well, I'm not going to be home at that time. I need you to change it. And this is when I'm going to be home and I want it delivered within this hour. I mean, those are the types of conversations that you'll be able to get to have rather than clicking, finding out the information and trying to figure it out on your own and guess,
Yes, that's amazing. That's so convenient. And what features are already available and what is coming?
Yeah, so I think a lot of people saw attending Summit last year, they got introduced to Brand Concierge. That is a tool that is going to have a big splash. I think the introduction of AJO B2B last year at Summit, that was a really big splash, and I think they're going to see more of that. Overall, though, I think, we're seeing a lot of great movement with other tools as well. I'm a big fan of Allgood. Give them a shout out. Ahmed's doing great work and really coming up with a tool that can provide companies a really easy win with AI. There's a lot of things you can do there. I think what we're going to find is a movement from APIs still being relevant, but the embedded experience for marketing operators for ease of builds, faster builds, automation of builds, right? No one should be cloning programs in Marketo manually. That should all be done through some kind of agent. So I think we're going to start seeing that efficiency and the gains within that for the marketing ops community specifically. Marketers are still trying to figure out what content do they make themselves versus AI. Coca-Cola just came out with an AI commercial that took everyone, by storm, and there was an upheaval online, but all PR is good PR, right? So they're the first one out of the gate to say, we created a commercial. Here's what it turned out as. They used, a lot of great tools to make that commercial. The world wasn't quite ready for it yet. I think, as far as like what's coming, we're sort of seeing it in little bits and pieces, but there's a lot more to be seen that will reduce the friction within the building and execution of marketing strategy.
Very interesting. I'm excited about 2026, even though the change is so fast. And people who are not using these tools, it feels that it will be even harder to start using them if they're not trying it right now. So please, people who are listening, start using AI agents, start experimenting. But it's exciting. It sounds like the future is quite interesting.